The great hall of Zephyria Prime stretched as far as Marcus Chen could see. Crystal pillars reached toward a ceiling that seemed to touch the stars themselves. He had never seen anything so beautiful or so terrifying in his 28 years of life. Marcus stood in a line with warriors from across the galaxy. To his left, a Krillian berserker flexed muscles that could crush steel. The creature stood 9 feet tall with skin like armor plating. To his right, a Mentari warrior floated slightly off the ground, her eyes glowing with psychic energy that made the air shimmer around her. He looked down at his simple military uniform. The green fabric looked plain next to the gleaming armor and exotic weapons of the other champions. Marcus was just a sergeant in the Terran Defense Corps. He had no idea why Earth had sent him to this ceremony. "Remember," whispered Ambassador Rodriguez through his earpiece, "you represent all of humanity today. Stay calm and follow protocol." Marcus nodded slightly. The protocol was simple enough. Princess Lirale would walk down the line of warriors and choose one to be her champion. That champion would then face trials to prove their species worthy of joining the Galactic Council. It was an ancient tradition, older than human civilization. No one expected her to choose the human. The massive doors at the far end of the hall began to open. Soft music filled the air, though Marcus could not tell where it came from. The sound was like wind chimes mixed with singing. Beautiful and alien, Princess Lirale entered the hall, and Marcus forgot how to breathe. She was tall and graceful, moving like she was dancing rather than walking. Her skin had a soft blue glow and her hair looked like it was made of silver starlight. She wore a dress that seemed to be cut from the night sky itself, complete with tiny lights that twinkled like stars. But it was her eyes that caught Marcus off guard. They were crystal clear, like looking into pure water, and they seemed to see everything. When she looked at someone, it felt like she could read their very soul. The princess began her walk down the line of champions. She paused in front of the Krillian berserker. The creature flexed and roared, showing off muscles that could punch through a tank. She nodded politely and moved on. Next came a group of Nexus soldiers. Their bodies were half machine with glowing circuits under their artificial skin. They stood perfectly still like statues. The princess studied them for a long moment, then continued walking. She stopped before the Mentari warrior. The psychic being's eyes flared brighter, and Marcus could feel the mental energy crackling between them. For a moment, he thought this was it. The Mentari were known for their wisdom and power. Surely the princess would choose one of them, but she moved on. Marcus watched her approach his section of the line. His heart hammered in his chest. Next to him stood warriors from a dozen different worlds. There was a Vorthan whose skin could turn to living metal. Behind him, a stellar knight whose armor was powered by a captured star. The princess walked past all of them. She stopped directly in front of Marcus. Up close, her eyes were even more beautiful. They seemed to hold depths he could fall into forever. She was taller than him by several inches, but somehow that did not make him feel small. Instead, he felt like she was seeing him as he truly was, not just his rank or his species. "You," she said. Her voice was soft but clear, carrying easily through the silent hall. "You will be my champion." The hall erupted in noise. Alien nobles began talking loudly in languages Marcus did not understand. He caught some words from his universal translator. Impossible, mistake, primitive species. The Krillian berserker roared in anger. Several of the Nexus soldiers made mechanical clicking sounds that Marcus guessed were protests. The Mentari warrior's eyes blazed so bright that other people stepped away from her. Marcus himself could only stare. "Your Highness," he managed to say, "are you sure? I'm honored, but there are much stronger warriors here." Princess Lirale smiled, and it was like watching the sunrise. "Strength comes in many forms, Sergeant Chen. I have studied the records of your species. Humans have a gift that is rare in the galaxy." "What gift?" Marcus asked. "You refuse to accept that anything is impossible," she said. "When faced with defeat, humans find a way to win. When given problems that have no solution, humans create solutions that should not work. Your people call it stubbornness. I call it hope." She turned to address the hall. "I have made my choice. Sergeant Marcus Chen of Earth will be my champion. We will face the trials together and prove that humanity deserves a place among the stars." The noise in the hall grew louder. Marcus could see anger on many alien faces. A tall being with gray skin and large black eyes stepped forward. Marcus recognized him from the briefing files as Lord Vex, one of the most powerful nobles in the Galactic Council. "Your Highness," Lord Vex said, his voice cold as space. Surely you cannot be serious. Humans are barely out of their caves. They have been in space for less than 2 centuries. They know nothing of galactic civilization. They know enough to have survived this long. Princess Lyralee replied. They know enough to have won battles they should have lost. They know enough to keep fighting when any reasonable species would surrender. She looked back at Marcus. Tell me, Sergeant, what do you know about the Battle of Proxima Station? Marcus felt his throat go dry. Proxima Station was not something he liked to remember. I was there, Your Highness. Yes, you were. You and 49 other humans held that station against a fleet of 300 enemy ships for 6 days. You had no reinforcements coming. Your supplies were cut off. Your commander was dead. By all logic, you should have surrendered immediately. The hall had gone quiet again. Everyone was listening now. But you did not surrender, the princess continued. Instead, you turned the station's mining equipment into weapons. You used maintenance robots as soldiers. You fired the station's entire supply of raw materials at the enemy fleet like bullets. You won a battle that was impossible to win. Marcus remembered those 6 terrible days. 47 of his friends had died in that station. But they had held the line. They had saved the colony ships behind them. We did what we had to do, he said quietly. Exactly, Princess Lyralee said. That is why I choose you. Not because you are the strongest or the fastest or the smartest. I choose you because when the universe tells humans no, they say, watch me. She extended her hand to him. It was surprisingly warm when he took it. Will you accept this honor, Sergeant Chen? Will you stand with me in the trials ahead? Marcus looked around the hall. He saw doubt on every alien face. They all thought he would fail. They all believed humans were too weak, too primitive, too stubborn to succeed. Maybe they were right. Maybe he would fail and embarrass his entire species in front of the galaxy. But Princess Lyralee had faith in him. She had faith in humanity. And if there was one thing humans were good at, it was proving people wrong when they said something could not be done. Yes, Your Highness, Marcus said. I accept. The princess smiled again, and Marcus felt something change in the air around them. This was bigger than just him now. This was about proving that humanity belonged among the stars. The trials would begin tomorrow. Tonight he would prepare for the fight of his life. 3 days had passed since they left Zephyria Prime. Marcus spent most of his time in the training rooms of the royal ship, trying to prepare for trials he knew nothing about. The ship itself was amazing. It was bigger than any human vessel, with walls that seemed to be made of living crystal and floors that felt warm under his feet. Princess Lyralee had been kind, but distant. She spoke to him during meals, asking questions about Earth and human culture. Marcus answered as best he could, though he sometimes felt like she was studying him like a puzzle she was trying to solve. The other passengers on the ship were less friendly. Most of the princess's advisors and guards looked at Marcus like he was something unpleasant they had found on their shoes. They spoke in their own language when he was around, but he could tell from their tone that they were not saying nice things. On the 3rd night, Marcus was in his quarters reading files about the trial worlds when someone knocked on his door. Come in, he called. Princess Lyralee entered, but she was different somehow. She had changed from her formal royal dress into simple clothes. Her hair was pulled back in a plain style. Without all the royal decoration, she looked younger. More human in a way. Sergeant Chen, she said, then paused.
May I call you Marcus?
Of course, Your Highness. Please call me Lyralee. What I need to discuss with you is too important for formal titles. She sat in the chair across from his desk. Marcus had never seen her look nervous before, but she was twisting her hands in her lap. Marcus, I need to tell you something about the trials. Something my advisors do not want you to know. Marcus set down his tablet. What is it? The trials are not just about physical strength or skill in battle. They test something much deeper. They test the bonds between species. The final trial requires a union between champion and princess. A union? Marcus asked. Like working together? Lyralee shook her head. Like marriage. Marcus felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Marriage? It is an ancient law. The champion and the royal must be joined in ceremony before their species can join the Galactic Council. It proves that our two peoples can truly become one. Marcus stood up and began pacing around the small room. Why didn't anyone tell me this before? Because most champions are chosen from species already in the council. The marriage is usually just a ceremony that lasts a few days, then it is ended. But with humans, she trailed off. With humans it's different, Marcus finished. Because we're not in the council yet. Yes, if we marry and fail the trials, the marriage would be void anyway. But if we succeed, then she looked up at him. The marriage would have to be real. At least for a time. Marcus stopped pacing. How long is a time? 1 full year by galactic law. Long enough to prove the union is genuine. Marcus sat back down heavily. This was not what he had signed up for. He had thought he would face some battles, maybe solve some puzzles, then go home to Earth as a hero. He had never imagined getting married to an alien princess. I know this is a shock, Lyra said softly. I am sorry I could not tell you sooner. My advisors wanted to wait until after the trials began, but I felt you deserved to know now. Why? Marcus asked. Why tell me now when you could have waited? Lyra stood and walked to the window that showed the stars rushing past outside. Because I need to ask you for something else. Something my advisors would banish me for even thinking. What? She turned to face him. I want you to teach me. Teach you what? How to fight like a human, Marcus blinked. I don't understand. I have studied every battle humans have ever fought in space. You do things that should not work. You win fights you should lose. You solve problems that have no solution. She stepped closer to him. I need to understand how you do it. I'm not sure I can explain it, Marcus said. We just do what we have to do. There is more to it than that. I have watched the recordings of Proxima Station dozens of times. When your commander died, you did not panic. When your weapons broke, you made new ones. When the enemy tried to board your station, you used their own tactics against them. She was right about all of that. Marcus remembered those dark days clearly. My people are great warriors, Lirelai continued. We have weapons and technology humans can barely imagine. But we fight by rules. We follow strategies that have worked for thousands of years. We do what is expected. And humans don't, Marcus said, beginning to understand exactly. Humans break rules. You ignore what is supposed to be impossible. You create chaos and somehow use it to win. She sat down again, leaning forward. I want to learn that. I want to fight like a human. Why? Because something is coming. Something my father's advisors refuse to talk about. Ships have been disappearing on the outer rim of our territory. Entire colonies have gone silent. Whatever is out there is using tactics we have never seen before. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of tactics? Impossible ones. They attack where they should not be able to attack. They win battles with ships that should not exist. They are fighting like... She paused. Like humans, Marcus finished. Yes, but they are not human. They are something else. Something that has learned your way of thinking and turned it against us. The room was quiet for a long moment. Marcus could hear the soft hum of the ship's engines and the distant sound of the crew working. So you want to marry me and learn human battle tactics to fight an enemy that fights like humans? Marcus said. Do you see how crazy that sounds? Lyra smiled, and for the first time since he had met her, it looked like a real smile instead of a royal one. Yes, it sounds completely impossible. But impossible is what humans do best, is it not? Marcus found himself smiling back. You might be right about that. So will you do it? Will you marry me and teach me to fight like a human? Marcus thought about Earth. He thought about his family and friends back home. He thought about what would happen if humanity failed these trials and was banned from the stars forever. Then he thought about what Lyra had said about the disappearing ships. If there really was something out there that threatened the galaxy, Earth would be in danger too. If I say yes, he said, this has to be a real partnership, not just you learning from me. We learn from each other. Agreed. And when the year is over, we both get to choose what happens next. No pressure from your father or my government. Agreed. Marcus stood up and extended his hand to her. Then yes, Your Highness. I will marry you. She took his hand and shook it firmly. Please call me Lyrelai. If we are going to be married, we should probably use first names. All right, Lyrelai. When do we start? Tomorrow, she said. The first trial begins in 2 days. We need to learn to work together before then. She moved toward the door, then stopped and looked back at him. Marcus, thank you. I know this is not what you expected when you accepted this honor. Nothing about this is what I expected, Marcus said. But maybe that's a good thing. Humans work better when we don't know what we're getting into. Lyrelai laughed, and the sound was like music. I am beginning to understand why the galaxy finds humans so frustrating. Just wait, Marcus said. You haven't seen anything yet. The wedding ceremony was simple but beautiful. They stood in the ship's main hall while Lyralee's father, the Emperor, performed the ritual through a holographic connection. Marcus wore his best military dress uniform while Lyralee wore a gown that seemed to be made of captured moonlight. The actual wedding was less important than what came after. As soon as the ceremony ended, they were transported down to the first trial world. Marcus had never seen anything like it. The planet was covered in a massive maze that stretched beyond the horizon. The walls were made of some kind of metal that shifted color in the light. Above them, the sky was a sickly green color that made everything look wrong. "Welcome to the labyrinth of echoing minds," said the trial master, a tall alien with too many eyes. "This maze changes based on your thoughts and fears. Creatures live inside it that hunt by sensing terror. You must reach the center together or you both fail." Marcus and Lyralee exchanged glances. They had spent the past day learning to work together, but this would be their first real test. "Remember what we practiced," Marcus said quietly. "Keep your mind focused on the mission, not on the dangers." They entered the maze together. The walls immediately began to shift around them, responding to their thoughts. Marcus focused on moving forward, one step at a time. He had learned this technique during his military training. When everything was chaos, you survived by making each moment simple. "It's working," Lyralee whispered. The walls had stopped moving as much. They walked deeper into the maze. After an hour, they heard the first howl behind them. Something was hunting them. "Don't think about it," Marcus said. "Just keep walking." But Lyralee made the mistake of looking back. The moment she felt fear, the walls began shifting again and the howls grew closer. A creature rounded the corner behind them. It looked like a shadow with teeth, flowing across the ground like liquid darkness. Its eyes glowed red in the strange light. "Run," Marcus said. They ran through the shifting maze as more creatures joined the hunt. Marcus could feel Lyralee's fear making the walls change faster, creating more passages for their enemies to use. "Stop," Marcus said, grabbing her arm. "This isn't working." "We have to keep running," she said, breathing hard. "No, we have to think like humans. Running is what they expect us to do." Marcus looked around at the shifting walls. An idea began to form in his mind. It was a crazy idea, but crazy was what humans did best. "Lyralee, I need you to trust me. Can you make your body glow brighter?" "Yes, but why would I want to? It will make us easier to see." "Exactly." Marcus started pulling items from his equipment pack. "We're going to do something stupid." Marcus quickly assembled a simple trap using his rope and some metal pieces from his gear. It would not hold the creatures for long, but it did not need to. "When I say now, I want you to light up as bright as you can and run straight at them," he said. "That is insane. Trust me." The creatures were getting closer. Marcus could hear them flowing through the passages around them. "Now!" Lyralee's body blazed with light as she ran toward the sound of the creatures. They were so surprised by this that they paused for a second. That was all Marcus needed. He triggered his trap, causing a section of the shifting wall to collapse and block the main passage. Then he grabbed Lyralee and led her through a side passage that had just opened. "How did you know that would work?" she asked as they hurried through the maze. "I didn't," Marcus said. "But the creatures expected us to run away from them, not toward them. Sometimes the best strategy is the one that makes no sense." They used this tactic several more times as they made their way through the maze. Each time, Marcus found a way to do the opposite of what their enemies expected. By the time they reached the center, Lyralee was starting to understand human thinking. The second trial was completely different. They found themselves in a massive arena with a fighter ship waiting for them. The ship was designed for 2 people, a pilot and a gunner. "I will pilot," Lyralee said. "My people are natural flyers," she was right. Once they were in the air, Marcus saw why her people ruled the skies. Lyralee flew like she was dancing, making the ship move in ways that seemed impossible. But when the enemy fighters attacked, Marcus saw the problem. Lyralee was flying by the rules. She attacked in patterns that were beautiful and precise but also predictable. "Break left," Marcus shouted as enemy fire came at them. "That is not the proper evasive maneuver," Lyralee said, but she did it anyway. The enemy fighters overshot them. Confused by the unexpected move, "Forget proper," Marcus said. "Fly ugly. Make mistakes on purpose. That goes against everything I have learned." "Good. Do it anyway." Marcus started calling out moves that made no tactical sense. "Dive when you should climb. Turn right when left was safer. Attack when you should defend, it worked. The enemy fighters were programmed to fight against skilled pilots who followed logical patterns. They had no idea how to handle a pilot who was deliberately flying wrong. "This is amazing," Lyrelai said as she sent another enemy fighter spinning out of control. "I feel so free." "Now you're getting it," Marcus said. "Sometimes the best way to win is to break your own rules." The third trial took them underwater to a deep ocean world. They had to swim to the bottom of a trench and retrieve an artifact while their equipment slowly failed around them. This time, Lyrelai took the lead. She used her natural bioluminescence to light their way while Marcus figured out how to keep their failing gear working with spare parts and creative thinking. "You see," Marcus said as he used a piece of their air recycler to fix their depth meter. "You're learning to think like a human. Use what you have, not what you're supposed to have." By the time they completed the third trial, they were working like a real team. Lyrelai was learning to break rules and think in impossible ways. Marcus was learning to use her natural abilities and alien technology in new ways. But their success had not gone unnoticed. That night, as they rested on their ship between trials, Marcus noticed something wrong. The stars outside their window were in the wrong positions. "Lyrelai," he said quietly, "I think we have a problem." She looked where he was pointing. 3 ships had appeared around them, ships that had not been there moments before. "Those are not trial ships," she said. The ships opened fire without warning. Their own ship shook under the impact of energy weapons. "Someone doesn't want us to finish the trials," Marcus said as he ran toward the bridge. "The Void Syndicate," Lyrelai said. "They are the faction that believes humans are too dangerous to join the Council." "Well," Marcus said as he helped her bring their ship's weapons online, "they're about to find out just how dangerous humans can be." The enemy ships were faster and stronger than theirs. They had better weapons and more advanced shields. By all logic, Marcus and Lyrelai should have surrendered immediately. Instead, Marcus smiled. Time to show them what impossible looks like. He began giving Lyrelai instructions that made no sense. Fly straight at the enemy. Drop shields when they were attacking. Use their communications array as a weapon. "This is insane," Lyrelai said. "Yes," Marcus agreed. "Isn't it great?" They turned their ship into something the enemy had never seen before. Marcus used the ship's mining tools as weapons. He fired their entire supply of construction materials at the enemy like bullets. He even ejected their own escape pods as decoys. The enemy ships were so confused by these impossible tactics that they began making mistakes. One ship collided with another while trying to avoid a cloud of spare parts. The third ship was disabled when Marcus somehow used their garbage disposal system to overload its shields. "Incredible," Lyrelai said as they watched the enemy ships retreat. "We should have lost that fight. But we didn't," Marcus said, "because we fought like humans." As they prepared for the fourth trial, Marcus realized something important. This was not just about proving humanity worthy of the stars. This was about teaching the galaxy a new way to think. And judging by how quickly Lyrelai was learning, the galaxy was ready for that lesson. The fourth trial was supposed to take place on a peaceful garden world. Instead, Marcus and Lyrelai found themselves trapped on an abandoned space station while assassins hunted them through the dark corridors. The attack had come without warning. As soon as their shuttle docked with the station, armed figures in black armor swarmed aboard. Marcus and Lyrelai barely escaped, running deep into the station's maze of tunnels and rooms. "This is not part of the trials," Lyrelai said as they hid in what looked like an old storage room. "Someone is trying to kill us." Marcus checked his weapon. He had managed to grab his rifle during the escape, but he only had 2 spare energy packs. Not nearly enough if they had to fight their way out. "The Void Syndicate?"
he asked. "Most likely."
"They have been growing stronger in recent years. They believe that adding new species to the Council weakens our civilization. And they especially don't want humans involved," Marcus said. "Yes. They have seen what human military advisors accomplished during the border wars. Small groups of humans helped our armies win battles that should have been impossible to win." Marcus heard footsteps in the corridor outside. He held up his hand for silence. The footsteps passed by without stopping. "How many of them are there?" he whispered. "At least 20. Maybe more." Lyrelai's eyes were glowing softly in the darkness. "They have better weapons than us, and they know this station better than we do." "Good," Marcus said. Lyrelai stared at him. "Good? How is that good?" "Because it means they're thinking like reasonable people. They have advantages, so they're using them. That makes them predictable. Marcus started pulling items from his equipment pack. Emergency rations, repair tools, spare clothing, medical supplies. Things that were not supposed to be weapons. What are you doing? Something unreasonable, Marcus said. Help me take apart this storage container. For the next hour, Marcus and Lyra Lee worked together to create weapons and traps from the junk they found in the storage room. Marcus showed her how to turn a simple repair tool into an explosive device, how to use the station's own maintenance systems against their enemies. This should not work, Lyra Lee said as she watched Marcus turn a food dispenser into a weapon. That's what makes it beautiful, Marcus said. They'll never see it coming. Their first trap caught 3 assassins who were checking the storage areas. Marcus had rigged the door to release a cloud of cleaning chemicals that burned their eyes and lungs. While they were coughing and blind, Lyra Lee hit them with improvised stun weapons made from medical equipment. I cannot believe that worked, she said. Believe it. Now let's go set up the next one. They began moving through the station like ghosts, setting traps and avoiding the search parties. Marcus taught Lyra Lee to think like a human guerrilla fighter, use the environment as a weapon, turn the enemy's advantages against them, strike where they are not expecting and disappear before they can respond. By the time the assassins realized what was happening, they had lost half their team to impossible attacks, walls that exploded when touched, floors that became electrified, air vents that shot out clouds of sleep gas. This is how you won the Proxima Station battle, Lyra Lee said as they prepared their final trap. Partly, Marcus agreed, but there's more to it than just tricks and traps. The real secret is never giving up. No matter how bad things look, you keep fighting. You keep looking for a way to win. They were hiding in the station's main reactor room when the leader of the assassins finally found them. He was a tall Nexus soldier with more machine parts than organic ones. His eyes glowed red in the darkness. Princess Lyra Lee, he said in a voice like grinding metal, you have caused us considerable trouble. Good, she replied. I learned from the best. The assassin raised his weapon, but Marcus was already moving. He triggered the trap they had prepared, using the reactor's own safety systems to create a localized electromagnetic pulse. The assassin's cybernetic parts went dead. He collapsed, twitching as his backup systems tried to restart. Now, Marcus shouted. They ran toward the station's communication center. If they could send a message to the trial masters, help would come. But more assassins were waiting for them. The fight in the communication center was brutal and close. Marcus and Lyra Lee were outnumbered 3-1, but they fought like a team that had been together for years instead of days. Lyra Lee used her natural speed and agility to confuse their enemies. Marcus used his human unpredictability to attack in ways that made no sense. Together they turned a hopeless fight into a victory. But Marcus took a bad hit from an energy weapon. The beam caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him to the floor. Marcus! Lyra Lee rushed to his side. I'm okay, he said, though blood was running down his arm. Just get that message sent. Lyra Lee worked frantically at the communication console while Marcus watched the doors for more enemies. His shoulder felt like it was on fire, but he had been hurt worse before. Got it, Lyra Lee said. Help is coming. Good, now we just have to stay alive until they get here. But they were not done fighting yet. The assassin leader had managed to restart his systems, and he was angry. He came through the door like a machine of death, his weapons firing in all directions. Marcus was too hurt to move fast. The assassin's shots drove him behind cover, but there was nowhere left to run. That was when Lyra Lee did something that shocked everyone, including herself. She attacked like a human. Instead of using her formal combat training, she grabbed a broken piece of equipment and threw it at the assassin's head. While he was ducking, she rolled across the floor and hit him with a tackle that would have made any human football player proud. The assassin went down hard. His weapon scattered across the floor. Where did you learn to fight like that? Marcus asked. From you, Lyra Lee said. I stopped thinking about the right way to fight and started thinking about the way that would work. Help arrived an hour later. Ships from the Galactic Council surrounded the station and arrested the surviving assassins. Medical teams treated Marcus's wound and declared that both he and Lyra Lee were fit to continue the trials. But the real test was still to come. As they prepared to leave the station, Lord Vex contacted them through the communication system. His image appeared on the main screen and his face was full of cold anger. You have proven more troublesome than we expected, he said. You were behind this? Lyra Lee asked. The Void Syndicate serves the greater good of the galaxy, Lord Vex replied. Humans are a cancer that will spread if not contained. We have seen what happens when human thinking is allowed to influence galactic civilization. What do you mean? Marcus demanded. The ships that have been disappearing on the outer rim, the colonies that have gone silent. That is the work of something that learned to fight like humans, something that took your chaos and turned it into a weapon against order itself. The screen went dark, leaving Marcus and Lyrelai alone with a terrible thought. Could he be right? Lyrelai asked quietly. Could human thinking be that dangerous? Marcus thought about all the impossible victories in human history. All the times humans had won by refusing to accept defeat. All the rules they had broken to save lives, maybe, he said. But danger isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes danger is what you need to protect the things you love. The final trial is tomorrow, Lyrelai said. The council will judge whether humanity is worthy of the stars. Then we better make sure we're ready to give them an answer they'll never forget, Marcus said. As they prepared for the final trial, Marcus realized that this was bigger than just proving humanity's worth. This was about teaching the galaxy that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is play it safe. Tomorrow, they would face the judgment of the Galactic Council, and Marcus was going to show them exactly why the universe needed humans among the stars. The final trial took place in the Great Council Chamber of Zephyria Prime. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the massive hall. Marcus had never seen so many different species in one place. There were beings made of living crystal, creatures that looked like walking trees and others that seemed to be made of pure energy. Marcus and Lyrelai stood in the center of the chamber holding hands. The past week had changed them both. Lyrelai no longer moved like a formal princess. She carried herself like a warrior who had learned to fight dirty. Marcus no longer felt like he was pretending to belong here. He was ready to speak for all of humanity. The Emperor of the Ethereal Dominion sat on his crystal throne at the front of the chamber. Beside him were the other rulers of the Galactic Council. Their faces showed everything from curiosity to open hostility. We are here to judge whether humanity deserves a place among the civilized worlds, the Emperor announced. His voice carried clearly through the vast space. The trials have been completed, but questions remain. Lord Vex of the Void Syndicate has requested permission to present evidence against humanity's inclusion. Lord Vex rose from his seat. His gray skin looked pale under the chamber's lights. Honored rulers, I present to you the truth about humanity. The chamber's main screen lit up with images of human battles. Marcus recognized some of them from military history files. The defense of Europa Station. The battle for the Titan mining colonies. The desperate fight at Wolf 359. Look at these battles, Lord Vex said. In each case, humans were outnumbered and outgunned. By all logic, they should have surrendered or been destroyed. Instead, they won using tactics that violated every rule of civilized warfare. The screen showed human soldiers using mining equipment as weapons. Ships ramming into much larger vessels. Entire stations being turned into giant bombs. Humans do not fight with honor, Lord Vex continued. They fight with chaos. They ignore the accepted rules of engagement. They turn everything around them into a weapon. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Marcus could see doubt on many faces. Furthermore, Lord Vex said, we have evidence that human thinking has already begun to corrupt the galaxy. The mysterious attacks on our outer colonies are being carried out by something that fights exactly like humans. Unpredictable, chaotic, impossible to counter. The screen now showed recordings from the attacked colonies, ships appearing where they should not exist, battles won by forces that should not have been strong enough, tactics that made no sense but somehow worked. This is what happens when human chaos is allowed to spread, Lord Vex declared. It creates monsters that use our own tactics against us. Humanity is too dangerous to be allowed among civilized species. The chamber fell silent. Marcus felt the weight of hundreds of alien eyes staring at him. Everything humanity had ever dreamed of was about to be decided by his next words. He squeezed Lyrelai's hand and stepped forward. You're right, Marcus said. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens began talking excitedly in dozens of languages. Even Lyrelai looked shocked. You're absolutely right, Marcus continued, his voice carrying over the noise. Humans are dangerous. We do fight dirty. We do break rules. We do turn everything around us into a weapon. The chamber quieted as everyone strained to hear what he would say next. But you know what? That's exactly why you need us. Marcus gestured to the screen, which still showed images of the colony attacks. You say these attacks are our fault because something learned to fight like humans. But look at what's really happening here. For thousands of years, you've been fighting the same way, following the same rules, using the same tactics. You've become predictable. He pointed to Lord Vex. You built a perfect civilization based on order and rules and honor, and it worked great, as long as everyone played by the same rules. Marcus began walking around the chamber as he spoke, looking directly at the various alien rulers. But now something new has shown up, something that doesn't follow your rules, something that fights in ways you've never seen before, and you can't handle it. We are perfectly capable of defending ourselves, declared a ruler whose body seemed to be made of living metal. Really? Marcus asked. Then why are the attacks still happening? Why have you lost 17 colonies in the past year? Why can't your fleets even find these attackers, let alone stop them? The metal being had no answer. I'll tell you why, Marcus said. Because you're trying to fight chaos with order. You're trying to solve an impossible problem with possible solutions, and that never works. Lyrelei stepped forward to stand beside him. He is right. I have learned to fight like a human during these trials. When you stop following rules and start thinking impossibly, you can defeat enemies that should be unbeatable. Princess Lyrelei, her father said from his throne, you cannot seriously suggest that we abandon thousands of years of military tradition. Not abandon, Lyrelei replied. Expand, add human thinking to our own. Use chaos as a tool instead of fearing it. Marcus nodded. That's all we're asking for. A chance to teach you what we know. To help you fight the impossible with the impossible. And what do humans gain from this arrangement? Asked a being that looked like a walking tree. The same thing you do, Marcus said. A chance to survive what's coming. He pointed back to the screen. These attacks aren't random. They're getting stronger and more organized. Whatever is out there is learning and growing. And if we don't figure out how to stop it together, it's going to destroy all of us. Lord Vex stood up angrily. You ask us to trust a species that has been in space for less than 2 centuries. A species that solves problems by hitting them with bigger hammers. Sometimes that works, Marcus said with a smile. But you're missing the point. It's not about how long we've been in space. It's about how we think about problems. Marcus walked over to a display console and began typing. The main screen changed to show a simple math problem. 2 plus 2 gar. What's the answer? Marcus asked the chamber. 4, came the unanimous response. Right. That's the logical answer. The correct answer. The answer that follows the rules, Marcus typed again. But what if the rules were wrong? The screen now showed 2 plus 2 are 5, impossible. Lord Vex snorted. Is it? Marcus asked. What if you're using base 3 math? What if the first 2 is actually a 1.6 that's been rounded up? What if the addition symbol doesn't mean what you think it means? The chamber was quiet now, listening intently. Humans don't just solve problems, Marcus continued. We question the problems themselves. We look at impossible situations and ask, what if impossible is just another word for not yet discovered? He turned to face the assembled rulers. You've built a perfect civilization by following perfect rules. But perfection only works until something imperfect comes along. When that happens, you need someone who specializes in imperfection. The Emperor stood up slowly. You make compelling arguments, Sergeant Chen, but actions speak louder than words. The trials are not yet complete. What do you mean? Lyrelei asked. The final trial, her father said, is for the Council to vote on humanity's membership. But first you must answer one question honestly. Before all assembled here, Marcus and Lyrelei waited. The marriage between you was supposed to be temporary, a political arrangement to satisfy ancient law. But I've watched you both during these trials. You have become something more than allies. You have become true partners. The Emperor's crystal eyes seemed to look directly into Marcus's soul. So I ask you both, is this marriage real? Will you choose to make it permanent, even knowing that it means Princess Lyrelei will leave her people to live among humans, and Sergeant Chen will leave his people to live among the stars? Marcus looked at Lyrelei. During the trials, she had become more than just a princess he was helping. She had become his partner in every way that mattered. They thought alike now. They fought as one. They trusted each other completely. I can't speak for Lyrelei, Marcus said, but yes, for me this marriage is real. Lyrelei smiled, and it was the same smile that had lit up the selection ceremony, but warmer now, more human. Yes, she said. I choose to stay with Marcus, to be part of this impossible species that refuses to accept defeat. The chamber exploded in noise again. Some aliens were cheering, others were protesting. The rulers of the council began talking among themselves in urgent whispers. Finally, the Emperor called for silence. The council will vote, he announced. All in favor of granting humanity membership in the Galactic Council? Hands, claws, tentacles, and other appendages rose throughout the chamber. Marcus counted quickly. It was close, but they had won. All opposed? Fewer appendages rose this time, but Lord Vex was among them. The motion passes, the Emperor declared. Humanity is granted membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. The chamber erupted in celebration. Aliens who had been skeptical before were now coming forward to congratulate Marcus and Lirelai. But Marcus was thinking about what came next. Humanity was now part of something bigger than Earth. They had responsibilities to protect not just their own people, but all the civilized worlds. So what happens now? He asked Lirelai as they were surrounded by well-wishers. Now we go home to Earth, she said, and we start building the first human ethereal military academy. We teach your people our technology and we teach our people your tactics. And then,